We will wait just a couple more minutes and then we will get started here. We'll just let people in as they come in. I know traffic is bad right now. It's not. By the way, while we're letting everybody filter in, I'll just say, I don't know how many people saw the promotion for Post-Production World. We posted a 50% off the pass to go. I actually went and did a bunch of stuff. I don't know how many people have been to Post-Production World, but I have to say that it was totally worth it. Yeah, I've been pretty amazed. The stuff that we've been getting from, I'm going to feel really bad because I'm forgetting the name of the group right now that puts it on. But is it FMC?
Something like that.
Yes. They put on really good stuff. So I highly encourage everybody to, to check their stuff out and to attend next time. I think there's one more event that's this year that we'll be promoting, and definitely check it out. So I didn't do the remote production conference, but the one that was before that, the Premiere World or whatever, Adobe Premiere World, and then this last one, Post-Production World thing, was really, really good. A lot of cool stuff that I learned. So highly recommend that. So just say that while we're waiting here, but give it another minute or two and then we'll go ahead and get started here.
Yeah, I want to take a second and say hi to Dave, if that's okay.
Yes.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, Marshall, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you, man?
Good to see you.
Good seeing you. How are things up there?
Things are pretty good. Not sure if you heard, I left Vitro a couple years ago. I'm working in Carlsbad now with the track and Dave Huerta. So yeah, it's going well. Busy.
You liking it?
I like it a lot. It's busy, but it's not quite as busy. So
you like the drive, I take it.
It's the drive is much better. Yeah, I can take my bike over to the office. So
awesome.
Of course, I left there, and part of the reason was because I wanted to spend more time with my family. And then next thing, COVID happened, and I was like, I don't want to spend any more time with my family. It's too much time. So, but yeah, good to see you.
Good seeing you.
All right, so let's go ahead and kick off the meeting here. As more people filter in, I'll just let them in. But yeah, welcome everybody. Just happy to have you here. Happy April. I can't believe it's April. It just seemed like it was January. Didn't we just have Christmas? Wasn't that like a month ago? But yes, welcome to April. Let's see. So I don't know that I have any big announcements to make. June 15th, we're all going to be back to normal, apparently, says the governor, somewhat back to normal. So I don't know what that means for us meeting in person. So when things kind of do come back, though, I'm anticipating, DJ and I have actually kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'm probably going to send a poll out to sort of see when people feel comfortable. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on when Platt opens back up again to let us in, whenever that is. But if they don't do it by late summer, let's put it that way, August timeframe, I'm going to send a poll out, see who wants to meet, how many people are willing to get together, and then we'll try to find a space until they let us back in. But our goal is to sort of have the showcase we do in October of every year in person, if we can. So that would be kind of nice. I would hope by October everybody would feel like coming out and playing in person, but who knows. Let's see. I think that is it for announcements. Like I said, there's no big events coming up. So there have been some new Premiere updates. 15.1 just came out. So if you haven't downloaded that, definitely get it downloaded. There's some nice little fixes in there. I don't know about After Effects. DJ, was there anything in the After Effects drop that's worth noting?
Honestly, I've not been able to keep track between the beta and the drop. The big things that have kind of come up is like a whole new 3D system, which is cool, but I'm not sure that if you don't do a whole lot of 3D, I'm not sure that you're going to prefer one way or versus the other. And the other thing is they're introducing multi-threading, which I think is still in the beta. I think that's the beta still.
It is, yeah.
Which is awesome. But yeah, those are kind of the two big things that I can think of off the top of my head.
All right. One other note, looking ahead to future meetings, one thing we are trying to line up, hopefully in another meeting or two, is having somebody from Adobe who will come and talk about the topic that we've been trying to cover for years now, which would be hardware and what system requirements for running the Adobe stuff smoothly. I'm in talks to have someone from Adobe who's extremely knowledgeable about that to join us for a meeting, and it will solely be on what your computer, what you need to have under the hood to run Premiere, run all the apps as smoothly, be it on Mac and be it on Windows, as smoothly as possible. So haven't solidified that, still working on that, but hopefully we'll have that coming up soon. So I'll report back as I hear back about that. Before we get started though, I am going to do one little tip before we turn it over to Dave. Also desktops, laptops. Yes, Kevin, laptops will be covered in that as well. But yes, I think probably focus mostly on desktops, but yes, laptops I'm sure will be covered as well. I'll make sure laptops are covered. So
Don't be lewd.
So I was going to do one little tip. So this is something that I was going to show in Premiere. Let me share my screen here. Let's see here. Let's do, how do I do just everything screen? I think let's just share that. So this is something I learned in Premiere recently. Some of you might already know this. So if you do, awesome for you. But I can't believe this got dropped and there wasn't more fanfare about it. Because to me, it's this is awesome. I've been asking for this for years. So what I have here is just a real simple timeline. Let me minimize this, put this up here. There we go. I've just got a real simple timeline here. And you can see I've got cool font number 1, awesome font number 2, radical font number 3, and cool font number 2, again, which is basically the same as cool font number 1. Now, I'm sure all of you at some point or another have worked on a project and the client has said, yes, we love your project with 90 titles, but we hate the font. You need to change the font in all 90 titles. Before, that was a pain in the neck. You had to go through and change every single title individually. Not no more. Now you can go up to graphics, replace fonts in projects. It'll open up this nice little dialog window at some point here. There it is. And you can see here, it lists off all the fonts that I am using in this project and how many times I'm using them. So for this first font, which is the Minion Pro, which is cool font number 1, if I want to replace it, I just have to select it, come down here to my replacement font, and let's just choose whatever this one is. And then we've got this font. I'm not sure which one this one is, but let's just change it as well. Oops, okay, so I've already selected it. So let's just find another font down here at the bottom. Let's just pick one. It doesn't really matter. We're going to choose Lobster 14 because why not? And then Boopy, we'll change Boopy because we hate the name. And let's just pick one here. This one looks fine. Okay, so I've changed it. And once I click OK, it replaces all the fonts. And there we go. So
you use Control Z?
Yep. Boom, we're back. I can go back by doing Shift Control Z. So yes, you can revert back if you need to, but it's super cool way, super quick way to change all the fonts real quick. Now, before someone asks, because I know someone's already thinking about it, what if I want to keep half the fonts that way and half the fonts like the original font that it is? Okay, it doesn't work that way. So it's a global thing. So it'll change them all. So just be aware of that. But you know, how often do you hear somebody say, yeah, we like the font half the time, but the other half the time it sucks. Usually it's we hate the font. So anyway, so there's your quick tip for the day. Hopefully you didn't know that and that's useful. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Is there anybody who, just out of curiosity, because I literally just found out about this and I'm kind of curious, did anybody know that ahead of time? No? All right. Hey, cool. All right. I shared something useful. All right. My job is done.
Quick question for you, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your shirt looks like a timeline. What is that from? How long of a feature is that?
This is from Adobe Max last year. So yeah, they were selling Premiere t-shirts. This is my second Premiere t-shirt. You'd think I'd have a whole like drawer full of them, but no, alas. You run a user group for 11 years and you get 2 t-shirts. But no, the other t-shirt that I have literally is from, I think, 2003. It's got like when Premiere Pro came out, like 1.0 or 1.5, and it's got the horse on the back, if you remember the horsey. So yeah, I'm still rocking that t-shirt. I saved that one for very special occasions. But yeah, got this one at NAB, so, or not NAB, Adobe Max. So, but yeah, it's a very cool shirt. Sold out in minutes, I think. So anyway, all right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to DJ, who's going to introduce Dave, our featured speaker tonight. So DJ, do you want to introduce Dave?
Yeah, so this is Dave. Take it away. No, so I've known Dave for like 16 years, like some ridiculous amount of time, 15, 16 years. We worked together at a startup that was, I think that everybody that worked there would agree, it'll be the best job we ever have. It was just a great work environment, a horrible money-making environment, because we didn't make any. But it was awesome. It was a great set of dudes. Dave and I stayed in touch. We've worked together since then. He went on to Vitro and just became the superstar in the agency world over there. And I can say it because he can't, or maybe he can, I don't know. But he carried that place on his back as far as I'm concerned. But he did really fantastic work over there. And in the last few years, he's moved over to Taco Truck Creative in Carlsbad, where he's in the golf world now, and he's super awesome dude, and actually second in a row of our Baltimore-based presenters. So yeah, take it away, Dave. For real this time.
All right.
And
Thanks a lot, DJ.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet all you guys. Thanks for coming out tonight. A little bit about me. DJ told you I'm from Baltimore. That's true. I grew up North Baltimore County, went to school there, went to college actually at the University of Maryland, where I studied journalism. And then I transferred over to a small art school with a focus on video production in North Maryland. After that, kind of started interning, working at furniture ad agencies, helping out just however I could on Ashley Furniture's Memorial Day sale or Serta's new fancy mattress or whatever kind of they needed me. I was on set as a PA or in the edit room, but I always kind of had a passion for post-production. And so when I had the opportunity to move out to California, I took it, of course, because it's way nicer out here than it is in Baltimore. No offense to Baltimore. So here I am. I've been out here about 15 years. My wife and I packed up 2 cars, drove out here. We got married a year later and then proceeded to have 3 children. So they needed financial support. As everybody knows, San Diego's expensive. So I freelanced around town, worked a bunch of different odd jobs, one of which was that amazing startup company. One of the first jobs I got out here was like working in a locker room. There was beer in the fridge all the time and models coming in and out. I thought I had made the right decision for sure coming to California. Then about 3 weeks before Christmas, they told us they ran out of money, and and I realized that production world was going to be a bit of a hustle, which it kind of has been ever since. So after that, I freelanced on and off at a bunch of different jobs, one of which was the ad agency Vitro down in, well, at the time they were down on 5th Avenue in San Diego. Now they're in Liberty Station. So I freelanced there for a while, and funny story, being that it's 420, it's a great day to tell the story. Their head editor was fired while I was working there freelancing because he tried to FedEx weed in the mail to someone and got caught. So that's
not allowed. I mean, isn't that
apparently it's not allowed. You can sell it to the other people in the agency, but FedEx, using the FedEx account to mail it out was frowned upon. So next thing I knew, John was offering me a job there, and I of course took it because they're a super talented agency and John's a super talented guy. So it was a great opportunity to kind of build my portfolio and get better and work in advertising, which is kind of where I've been ever since. I worked there for about a decade until recently when I met Dave Huerta, who is also a former Vitro employee, and he offered me a job 3 miles away from my house working a taco truck. And so I've been doing that for the last 2.5 years, improving my golf game a lot, which is nice. I'm getting out on the course. It kind of feels like I retired. So I'm playing golf all the time, and, you know, I'm on golf courses more often to shoot things than I am to play. And I'm still actually pretty terrible, but it's fun. I enjoy it a lot. And I imagine a lot of you who've worked in North County, San Diego have probably touched some golf business at some point, because as you may know, it's a mecca for golf here. All the big companies, Adidas Golf, who I've also worked on, and Cobra, Titleist, TaylorMade. They're all headquartered here in Carlsbad. So if you know anything about golf, there's a lot of great opportunities there. They're all doing more and more content, more and more video production in-house, and also using agencies for a lot of their commercial work. So we're lucky to have a great relationship with Callaway, and it's been really fun so far. If it was up to me, I'd be working in film and movies because that's definitely where my passion is. But as we know, that's easier said than done, and brands have most of the money. And trying to make movies, yourself when independent is a very difficult hustle, as I'm sure Eric can attest to. Trying to find the funding or the festivals to enter and get your name out there can just be grueling, tiresome. And with 3 kids constantly bothering me and asking me for bottles of milk or whatever else they need, I did not have time for that. So advertising and working on brands has definitely been a blessing for me, and fun. It's a great way to still kind of be a storyteller and also pay the bills. So with no further ado, I will get into my visual presentation. Hold on just a moment here. I don't do a lot of Zoom presentations. Most of the time it's someone else sharing my work. So just bear with me for a moment, please. And I'm sorry, this is kind of the first time you're seeing me here. I really should be coming to these more often, but Eric was nice enough to switch it to a Tuesday for me just because my kids have football practice every Wednesday night. So I can't often be here on Wednesdays. All right.
That's how much we love you, man. We switched it for you.
I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I hate to make everybody's schedules change just for me, but thank you for doing that. Okay, so let me know if you can see what we've got here. This is a little intro I put together. Everybody seeing it so far? Going to talk about advertising.
We got it.
All right. Okay, so advertising quite often kind of looks like this, and I've worked on a lot of ads that this is what they look like. They're just the everyday, it's like kind of 15-second commercial. This one's for red. Oh, it's starting over. Okay, bear with me for a moment.
At just $6.99, Red Robin's Tavern Double Burger is an investment that pays dividend after Double Burger is an investment that pays dividend after dividend in bottomless fries. 24 burgers, a million reasons.
Red Robin, yo.
The funny thing about that commercial is it's 15 seconds long, but we probably spent about 6 months, working on it. Which is just kind of the bouncing. There's a lot of chefs in the kitchen when it comes to advertising and a lot of people who want to make comments. And so I think we tried putting the Red Robin Yum at the beginning of the commercial and then at the end, and then we tried doing a time lapse of their restaurant. So there was a lot of experimentation to just get to that point. That was a series of about 10 or 15 second ads that were part of that. So. Okay. Sometimes the ads I get to work on are a little prettier. Okay, this is one that I really liked working on. So this one didn't really involve a lot of editing, which is kind of cool because it was basically looking through the selects, figuring out how to make this guy sitting at a table as funny as possible. So there was a lot of rough sound design, kind of building it out with creatives, experimenting again to get to a point.
We wanted to know how good Sherry's tender, slow roasted turkey and all natural hickory smoked ham dinners really are. So we brought in Dale.
I like the taste.
Dale likes the taste. Visit Sherry's for our seasonal specials. Dale likes the taste.
I like the taste.
So that's the fun thing about advertising is sometimes you get to work on some silly things like that. that you sell through to the client, and they let you make it, and you're just amazed that you're sitting in a room making a commercial like that. So that was a fun one for a small diner up in, I think they're in Washington State. I don't know if anyone's ever eaten at a Sherry's, but they're basically like a low budget IHOP.
Do you get paid in food?
Yeah, I think we got cranberry sauce and turkey, no potatoes. All right. Spin the wheel. Okay. I'm going to go to my Premiere and see if I can play it a little better out of Premiere than online, because it's not working very well there. Okay. So this one is a much more fun spot. Lots of times when clients want to shell out a little more money, you get to work with some really great cinematographers and beautiful footage with a good idea, and everything kind of just comes together and works. And this is, hopefully it doesn't lag, but if it doesn't, this is a concept about we're selling a tire here pretty much, and using the Russian mafia to do it.
Мне кажется, он хочет что-то сказать.
Hey, guys, are those Toyo Tires? Man, I love Toyo Tires. They're the best.
I am also loving these tires. Let's get you cleaned up.
So that's a pretty fun one that I got to work on. That was beautifully shot with the fog machines and everything, and they let us make a 60-second commercial out of it. But as probably a lot of you have noticed, commercials these days are being made out of all different kinds of footage. TikTok videos, YouTube videos, all sorts of things. So we need to get creative and sometimes make commercials out of user-generated content from time to time, which is, I'll show you a result of here with an Adidas commercial I did a couple of years ago.
Dear Sports, 스포츠 안녕?
Dear Sports, listen up!
Let's keep bringing the power. The passion and the drama. Let's get this.
Over these,
Past that, around those,
not to mention this.
all to get it here. Now, let's take it to the next level. The creative level. Amp up the imagination. Amp up the imagination. Too easy, man.
Nothing's too easy about this game.
So make your mark. Join us. Join us.
Join us on the greatest canvas in sports.
Not sure how the playback was on that. Hopefully it was good, because that spot for us older crowd will kind of make you have convulsions. It's so much going on, but you know,
That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, it was a hodgepodge of very different things that we kind of had to bring together into one spot that felt all the same. So
Can I ask a question about that?
of course.
So so Adidas comes to you and says, we want to do this spot, and then that whole concept, I mean, how much of that was storyboarded? How much of it was planned ahead? I mean, obviously I can tell there's stuff you went out and shot.
Yep.
And then the animation, of course, but how much of that was pre-boarded out before you got going, because like it looks like some of the stuff was social media stuff. So I can't tell, did you shoot that social media stuff to look that way, or did you just find stuff and incorporate it in? I mean, can you kind of talk about how that project was all put together?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. We did tons of planning on this spot to get it to a point where the client was happy with it. There were versions of this that were built off of footage that we found online in Rip-O-Matic format. To get to this point, it was a lot of planning, and we had boards up on the wall that we kind of sectioned off into different parts of the spot. We knew we wanted to do animation at one point, so we had to outsource that to different animation companies that we tried out. But we used placeholder all in the meantime and presented many rounds of the client where none of this footage was in it. It was all using free found footage or footage that we shot ourselves, just kind of quickly and down and dirty in the agency. Until eventually the client bought off on what was already pretty much a built spot, and then paid for a production company to go out and shoot it. And some of the pieces from the original Rip-O-Matics are still in there. That social media stuff you saw, or the girl kind of doing tricks, all that stuff was part of the original Rip-O-Matic. So this project was definitely like a 6 to 8 month deal with probably 50 to 60 versions to get to this point. So the client spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of time working on it. And it was actually the last thing I worked on before I left. So at Vitro. So yeah.
Can I ask one more question? This is kind of unrelated to post, but so as a small production company owner, this is where I kind of am curious. How do you budget a project like that? I mean, where, like you said, there's so much that goes into the pre-planning of it and going out and shooting your own stuff before the production company even gets going. And when you don't even have things really solidified, I mean, and maybe that's not, you weren't part of that. So feel free to say, I have no idea. That's not my deal. It's not my
Well,
bag.
I know a little bit about that, but mostly we use an agency producer to kind of handle that budget. But initially client services would work with the client to find out what their marketing budget is for the year. We would take that marketing budget and develop a strategy and then give them a list of deliverables, whether it's web banners or print ads. And usually in that list of deliverables will be social content and TV commercials, which is kind of my area. So they'll come to me and ask about how many hours things will take. They'll get some random estimates for music costs or sound design costs or number of hours, like I said. And then they'll go back to the client with like, hey, we want to spend 60% of the budget on your TV spot because we think the TV spot is going to kind of dictate how the rest of the advertising is going to work. And the client usually won't buy off on that without some sort of visual representation. So with the photography, with the comps that we'll sell through, we kind of comp together how print ads will work. We'll do a Rip-O-Matic, and we'll try to make the campaign as close as we can visually to how we see it on the end. And hopefully the client can get enough of an idea of how everything's going to work. And for this client specifically, Adidas has a big brand guideline for master brand that everything kind of has to live under. So, the photography all had to have a motion feel to it. There had to be dirt kicking off of the shoes when they were moving, or sand flying from sand traps. You couldn't just do like a shoe on a putting green. So we spent a lot of time there was probably a team of about 15 to 20 people with client services, art directors, retouchers, myself in video production, a shooter, and then agencies, producers, just kind of putting this whole campaign together to sell through. At this point, of course, we had already kind of won the business, so they were stuck using us contractually. It was just a matter of getting to a point where we wanted to spend X dollars on the TV spot, and that's kind of how we knew what we had to spend. So once we had the Rip-O-Matic done, and we were ready to move to the next level of hiring a production company and an animator, that's when our agency producer uses his connections to kind of get out there and find a director, a few directors. They'll usually pull like 4 or 5 director reels. Those will pass through the agency creatives until finally it's made a decision, we want to present these 2 or 3 to the client with this one as our recommendation. And that's how we'll award the job to a director at that point. And then everything gets going, next thing you know, you're shooting it and it's in post-production. So yeah, that's kind of how it all worked.
And one last thing, Kevin asked, Rip-O-Matic. Can you describe what that is?
Yes, I will show you one of those later. But there's 3 kind of O-Matics that we do in advertising in order to sell an idea or TV commercial through to a client. One would be a rip-o-matic, where you use footage that you can find online or shoot yourself. Most of it, either some of it's from other TV commercials that have been made. It's kind of inspirational. It's just sort of to give a direction to the clients so they know kind of what you're thinking. Clients, a lot of times, even the high marketing guys, they just want visuals before they'll buy something, before they'll pay for something. So we'll go online and pull footage from YouTube. We'll go outside with our cameras and shoot stuff. We'll find footage from wherever we can. I mean, when I first started there, YouTube wasn't really a thing. So we were ripping off DVDs and finding scenes from movies and putting it in there and then kind of explaining, how it would all cut together. And yeah, it doesn't look very seamless right now or like it all belongs together. But, once we shoot it, it will have a complete look and feel. And so that's a rip-o-matic where you're ripping footage. There's also an animatic, which you can hire an animator to take a storyboard and kind of animate scenes from that. You may have seen in some DVD bonus features for movies or things like that. They do that all the time in Hollywood. They'll get a storyboard and then they'll have an animator kind of do 2D line art to animate scene to scene. So we'll do that sometimes as well. Not as often because those animators can be expensive. And then lots of times we'll just do a board-o-matic, which is you have an art director who makes a storyboard. So you just take that storyboard, find a music track, find some sound design, maybe put some subtle moves on the storyboard so that it has some motion to it, and then cut it into a 30-second commercial. And that is a good way to give a client an idea of how they're going to get their message across in 30 seconds and how the visuals are going to pay off the messaging that they're trying to say. All of this planning, I can't stress enough, is one of the most important parts of advertising, and putting together a campaign, and tons of hours are spent on that, and time and money. And with that said, we quite often still found ourselves fixing it in post because it's just how it works. And you've all been there and probably seen it, but it gets to post and things aren't working. And so there's a lot of times where we just have to come up with creative solutions to pull it all together. So I can't tell you a single time that an idea was sold through to the client, produced, shot, came to the edit room, I put a cut or two together, the creatives approved it, and the client approved it right away. That's never, ever happened. It's always been many rounds of experimentation and trying. So we try to do as much planning as we can, but in the end, we're still doing a lot of changes and working in the post-production suite. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. The thing with advertising, and I'll show you this real quick, is lots of times I'll be working on projects and I love to be an organized editor and keep all my bins in a nice, beautiful place and all my footage, in one spot on a hard drive or a server somewhere, or RAID drive. But things move pretty quickly in advertising, and sometimes you have to leave organization behind to try to get things done. And so your project ends up looking like this. And so I've always been very forgiving if I've picked up a project from another editor and it's come to me like this, because I know that poor editor has probably been through a lot to get to that point. And I will yell at them still and tell them to get it together before they send it over to me, but it just kind of happens. Sometimes I've had to put organization secondary to being able to quickly grab something online and try it in a spot, or work on a different project because the client needs something, as an emergency. So that's been kind of my biggest qualm with working in the advertising industry, is that they don't understand. A lot of the creatives and production managers and producers even don't understand what goes into setting up an edit and the pre-production of of putting together a big edit. I never had an assistant editor to kind of pull selects for me or anything like that. So lots of times the creative will show up in my room with a hard drive and be ready to start editing without me being able to kind of organize all the footage, get it plopped into a select sequence, pull selects down, do an editor's rough cut. They just want to get going because the timeline's so tight and we have to show a first version. So that's been kind of a tricky part, but I will always try to push back and make sure they do give me that time as much as I can, but it doesn't always work. The other thing that I've tried to do a lot in my career and time is be versatile. I've noticed that Vitro and Taco Truck have both kind of pushed me to be as versatile as I could. If it was up to me, I would just work in editing and be a complete specialist on visual storytelling in editing. But unfortunately, in these modern times, you need to learn other things. So I've also learned how to animate, how to, do vector animation and 3D animation, how to fly a drone. I'm a licensed drone pilot now, how to shoot photography, product photography, headshots, pretty much everything. So all of that stuff that I just mentioned, I'm kind of mediocre at. I'm still best at editing, but it's stuff that I've learned because I've still found it useful. And there's a lot of different budgets out there, and some of them can afford the top tier stuff, and some of them, they'll want me to come shoot and edit and do everything. And even color correction is something I've been doing a lot recently too. So I've just noticed that the more this industry evolves, the more versatile I need to be, which is not ideal for me, but it's also kind of fun. Sometimes I notice that, I've really enjoyed drone photography, and that's one of the things I try to do on the side since I've had to pick that up. So, so here's an example of some animation. And again, DJ, don't judge me because I know you're kind of a next level animator, but this is a project that Marvel came to me, and it was for Comic-Con, I think, maybe a few years ago. And they gave me these little icons. Is all they had were the little white vector icons. There's kind of a sample of one.
I like it starts, DJ, don't judge me. Marvel came to me.
So they sent these things over, and these were just Illustrator files. And they were like, what can you make of this? Believe it or not, Marvel doesn't have much money on the Marvel Entertainment side because they spend it all on their production, their movie production. So Marvel Entertainment, which is what runs their Comic-Con booth, doesn't have as much money. So they just kind of were like, we have all these marks for each of our heroes, and we want to just put together a little video that exemplifies each hero with some music that gets people hyped up when they come to the booth. And so I used Element 3D from Video Copilot, which is a really great OpenGL 3D program. You can take Illustrator files and extrude them, give them great depth of field, lighting, reflections, everything there. And it works super quick on my machine, which is not a high-end 3D machine. So it's a nice program. If you haven't tried it out, I definitely recommend it. A lot of that stuff, I'm sure you guys know about Video Copilot, but they have a lot of great plugins from that. And so this is something I made with that, and it was just me and an art director. So not a lot of planning on this one, and it'll probably show through, but it turned out kind of cool.
Every hero has a mark. Each of us must choose our own.
This is what legends are made of. This is what legends are made of. I do it off of the love. I do it off of the love.
Our marks are pillars of our personalities, symbols of who we are on our best days, and reminders of who we want to be, even in the face of our struggles. Show the world what you stand for. Choose your mark.
The best of all time. The best.
So yeah, the client was super happy with that because they didn't spend a lot of money, and it ended up being pretty cool. And fun for me to work on. I love doing animation and 3D stuff. I don't get many opportunities for that, so that was one I enjoyed. Did it play back okay? I don't know if it might have been a little jittery, but
No, it looked great. I mean, that, yeah, I don't know what you were talking about saying, don't judge me on this, man. That was awesome.
Thank you. I mean, it's
That was dope.
thanks. Well, DJ, I've seen your work recently, and it's beautiful. You've been doing great stuff, so it's awesome. The thing I like most about advertising, and when it makes me most happy, is when we push a brand to do something experimental, like that Adidas spot that you saw. Was something we had to really push them to get out of their comfort zone and try to do. And when we do that and do it successfully, whoever I'm working with, and I've worked with a giant variety of different groups of people, That's the most fulfilling for me, is when you convince a tire company to make a TV commercial about a Russian mafia guy, and rather than just showing their product, spitting up water on the road and how beautiful their tires look. So I've been fortunate to have some good clients like that in the past, and more recently have even been pushing Callaway since I've been working at Taco Truck to kind of branch out from the normal product stuff with CG and look at how pretty our golf clubs are, because honestly, golf clubs all kind of look the same. So this next one is another Toyo Tires one, and I'm really proud of this one because it's pretty much a food commercial that we made into a tire commercial. And when I kind of first got this creative brief and worked with the writer and art director on it, it seemed like it was going to be impossible to pull off, and I kind of felt like it came together really well. So this one.
This is a 24-ounce, dry-aged porterhouse steak, a masterpiece, the sum of every delectable detail carefully considered. This is also a metaphor for your car. So when you don't put Toyo Tires on your car, you're basically doing this. Choose Toyo Tires, not sprayed cheese.
So yeah, that's one that was a really fun spot to work on, and has a great payoff. So stuff like that just makes me really happy. Wild Turkey 2 is another one that I worked on with John, and we kind of pushed them out of their element and had them talk about imperfection and how imperfection could be beautiful too, and that it gives authenticity to the brand. And so they bought off on that, and we told a nice little story about their master distiller, he's a real looker.
I don't care much about appearances. Flaws, I got plenty of them. But this is what I believe. Do one thing well. Do it all the way, and you can stand proud. I'm Jimmy Russell. For 60 years, I made Wild Turkey bourbon my way, aged in barrels with the deepest char. That's the true, rich flavor you want.
Wild Turkey, bottled but never tamed.
And so it should be noted with all these commercials that you see here that a lot of it went into it, and a lot of work from a lot of very talented people. That's another thing I really enjoy about advertising is collaboration. It's not very often that I'm giving a project and I'm working on it alone by myself in a room, trying to come up with something, because quite often when I'm giving those types of projects, the work is just not as good. And I try not to take it personally, and it frustrates me. I try not to feel like I'm not talented or anything like that, but I just prefer to be able to collaborate and work with other artists, and get to a point where I feel like nothing, everything that I think is good is usually made by a group of people. So I would highly recommend having a good group of people to work with, which I'm fortunate to. Now at Taco Truck, we have a great team. We recently did this for their apparel, and this is definitely different from most golf apparel ads you'll watch. So this is about their weather series, and then playing golf in the rain. Everything's kind of playing back at half res right now, so it plays back a little smoother. That one's cool, and as you can see, music is very important for me to a spot like that, because it's essentially a sizzle reel, and so I want the music to really be impactful. That was actually, I'm not sure if anyone's ever worked with Peligro music, but Greg Kuhn over there is a great musician, and I'll use him all the time. And so I'll kind of I'll just rip a track off of Spotify that I kind of think works. I'll do a deep dive into kind of my music selection, I very often never go to stock music sites unless, you know, the budget is only stock music budget. But I'll always start with the best music I possibly can and try to get a musician or a composer to actually do something for. Lots of times I can get them to do it for what a stock music track will cost. I think music is super important to TV and video storytelling. So stock music, sometimes you can find something, but I've gone down some stock music holes that have given me nightmares, and I try to avoid them unless I have to go there. So, you know, I've woken up in the middle of the night saying premiumbeat.com. You know, wanted to jump out the window. So that one,
we've all been there, man.
I figured as much. Okay, so speaking to that and pushing brands and animatics, I'm going to go through a spot that we recently produced. It just aired last weekend on the Golf Channel for a putter. And this was a one where we kind of pushed the client to do something different for their putter ad, then just show a normal CG and kind of talk about, you know, how great their putter is, which they still want to do, but we just kind of tried to come up with something original. So it started with an animatic that I built, which is kind of in between a board-o-matic and an animatic, but you can kind of see where things started and how they ended. So this is the first version of this spot for the White Hot OG putter. And basically I got a storyboard from an art director with a script from a writer, and just kind of put it together with some music that maybe will kind of work. I'm not sure. This actually might be a stock track. I can find one, but so if you hear music bad, don't. Okay, so that's the first version. It's not very exciting, not real fun to watch, but it kind of gave us an idea of pacing, how we were going to shoot it, how the animation could work, because this spot did use a 3D animator on the front end here. As you can kind of see, this stuff will turns into 3D animation. In the middle here, we used one of those robot arms and phantom cameras to shoot the putter, so that it kind of looks almost like a render, but it's a real putter. And so that first version kind of gives the animator an idea of what the pace will be like. It gives the client an idea of kind of how it'll play. The music is still pretty far off from where we end up, but I'll show you what happens once we go and get the animator moving and get some of the shots from the phantom camera going. This is the first version of that cut together. It looks like this. So you can see everything's still kind of in log. Nothing's really looking very good. This does not go to the client. This is kind of just for us internally to start seeing how the animation is going to be coming together, the wireframes and the previs here that the animator is working on, and how that's going to cut with some of the photography that we shot. We'll pick selects out, kind of decide what angles we want to show of the club, and then we'll get something ready to present to the client that kind of looks a little more like this. This is moving along probably a couple weeks later. So it's starting to get a little cooler now. We can show that to the client and kind of get a litmus test of if they're happy with it, what they want to change, where they want to go. But we're starting to feel pretty good about that. I'm not sure how it played back, hopefully pretty smooth, but you can see that some of this stuff, you know, the shaft in this shot here is not looking super great, kind of needs some retouching. You know, you're seeing parts of the rig that they set up in some of it. So it still needs a lot of post work to be done to get it to a final point. Let's see if I can find that shot. Yeah, you can kind of see like on the top corner there, there's some of the rigging. And everything's still sort of in log, and you know, the animation, the animator's coming along, but we're still kind of pushing him to get to a point where we're happy. And then finally, this is the final version. So one thing that we found from this to the final version is that the music wasn't quite exciting enough. This was actually a track that we pulled from another commercial. We knew it was never going to be the final track. We just kind of needed something that was in the right vein of what we were looking for and kind of at the right pace for us to build this spot out to get to this final point, which, you know, if you're an old guy who's laying on your couch on a Saturday watching golf on the Golf Channel, this commercial, I hope, is going to wake you up. So that's a pretty long journey that commercial went on to get there, but we're pretty happy with the result, especially because it doesn't show a player hitting the putter, which is what the client always wants to show. So they were thrilled with that. It's I think it had a pretty good week on its first weekend, but I'm happy to field any questions or answer anything you guys think about that.
That's one thing to bring up. You mentioned client expectation. You know, those spots, you know, always show somebody using the putter, and
yes,
you guys didn't. So how much of that goes into when you guys are talking about, you know, trying to think about concepts and what to come up with for spots? How much of that goes into your thinking? Like, okay, what do we normally see, and how much of that do we want to avoid versus how much of that do we need to include just because it's sort of, you know, you have to, you know, include those sort of standard shots and things because that's what's expected. And if you don't do it, the client's going to freak out.
Right. Well, we were COVID actually kind of helped us on this because there wasn't a lot of production happening when this spot was first getting pitched. So we kind of talked about, hey, well, how can we do a putter commercial that's interesting without having to hire a production company to go to set and having to coordinate pro schedule or even an amateur schedule and get it all done. So it actually kind of worked out in our favor this time around. But what we'll do is we'll go to the client, usually with a few other spots that other competitors have made and spots that they have made in the past because they'll do a new putter every couple of years, right? So you'll see this white hot, it'll disappear next season. They'll put a new one out 5 years from now with some new technology. So we'll pull the old one and be like, you know, hey, we want to do something different. You guys should try something different and try something that can be maybe a little more original. And then we'll kind of show this, well, we'll show them a storyboard usually first and some visual imagery of where we think they could go with their putter without actually showing it put to music or anything like that. And then we'll kind of pray for the best a lot of times that they'll sign off on it without asking us to show the putter being, you know, putting a ball in the hole. This time they did. We're fortunate to be have a very good relationship with them, like I said, and I noticed that they seem to be trusting us more and more. One thing with this client and working with Taco Truck that I've noticed is different than working with Vitro is in Vitro, I was quite often I wouldn't find out about this project until it was in the edit room. You know, I wouldn't even be briefed on it or know that I was going to be working on a golf commercial until there was a hard drive delivered to me in the edit room, which can be frustrating. So with Taco Truck, I have a lot more FaceTime with the client, which I like a lot. I'm out there working hand in hand with them and also briefing and kind of going through with the creatives how the spot's going to work in a pre-production meetings. So I appreciate that and being a part of that more. It's very fun. So yes, you kind of saw the animatic that started with. Occasionally, this is an older one, but it's pretty cool, and it's one of my favorite things that I've made, and it was never shown anywhere. I don't know if you guys remember Lolo Jones from the. She was an Olympian runner, actually a hurdler, Olympic hurdler. In 2008, I want to say, she was supposed to win the hurdles in the Olympics, and she tripped over the last hurdle. She was one of ASICS' biggest athletes, and I worked on ASICS at the time. She tripped over the last hurdle, so as she was training for 2012, we kind of wanted to tell a redemption story. So we put this together with no money. We just found footage online, footage from her interviews, and kind of built it with some music and tried to sell it through to the client. Unfortunately, it was too expensive for them because the idea used announcers and footage from news cameras and actual Olympic broadcasts and stuff. But I thought it turned out a very emotional piece that was very nice for what it was. So check it out.
Your story in that race is a part of sports, and take me through it. What happened?
Let's talk first about the race last night. Obviously, it looked like you got out really strong. You looked amazing as you started the race. You felt good.
First thought you had when you hit that hurdle in Beijing.
She hit the hurdle. She hit hurdle number 9, the next to last hurdle. So in big moments, you have that unfortunate that you hit the hurdles.
You were going for the gold, and you tripped. You're one hurdle. You're really 2 hurdles away from the gold medal.
Watching it at the time, you were just so clearly in front.
One tiny mistake starts from the finish line.
Do you remember what you were feeling as you sank to the ground like that?
Posture dream.
Lolo Jones hit the hurdle. She experienced a hurdle line in the Beijing Olympics.
Couldn't hit a hurdle. She hit that hurdle.
Hit the hurdle. Take us back to that bad spill.
So yeah, I thought that one turned out really well. The footage of her running, that's not even her. We grabbed that footage from wherever we can, and we just kind of wanted to tell an emotional story of her overcoming that moment where she fell on the hurdle and how she was training for the next Olympics. And the client loved it. They just didn't have the money to put it all together. So it never got made, unfortunately. But for me, I thought it was a powerful piece. And even when I watch it now, it kind of still gives me chills. So I like that one a lot. She didn't end up winning in London in 2012 either. So probably for the best, it never aired. So yeah, that was a Rip-O-Matic basically. So you can kind of get a feel for how much work goes into just trying to sell something through to the client. I mean, we're basically making the commercial without having the money to make the commercial. So since then, it's been fun. I'm still doing TV commercials. Let's see if I can find the Callaway one here. This one's kind of fun. Oh, maybe what I'll do next is actually kind of show a workflow on a spot that I'm working on now. So I'll stop my share for a quick second and share a different screen. Okay. All right, so this is a project that I am working on now for Callaway. It's a promotion that they do for the US Open. I can't show the spot because it's not done yet, and I signed an NDA, so I can just kind of show you how the project's set up. But essentially, they do a promotion, a very convoluted promotion for the US Open. That is, if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods or Golf Galaxy, you buy the Callaway driver, the brand new one, and you pick a golfer at that point when you buy it to win the US Open. He has to be a Callaway golfer, sponsored Callaway golfer. And then he wins the US Open, then they will reimburse you for the driver. So it's kind of a lot to put into a commercial. So we have one from last year that I'll show you in a minute. But this is this year's one. And so the way I kind of set this project up is I'll build my bins out. I've actually had time to get this one set up. But just standard format, I'll build a bin for sequences, for footage, for audio, and then one for graphics over here. And inside of each of those, my music will live, my voiceover will live, or my sound effects. And then I don't often use the preview window up here to make my selects. Maybe I mean, very, very rare instance that I use this window, which is crazy because I used to use it all the time. But the way kind of Premiere and editing software has evolved, I've found it much more beneficial to use a sequence and kind of set it up as a pancake, just a select sequence. So up here, so you can see this on my top sequence is all my selects. And I'll kind of go through and if I like something, I'll put it on track 2. If something's really good or a creative likes it, I'll move it up to track 3. I'll use markers up top here to kind of let me know which each shot is. This is the wide intro. Here's some outtakes. Here's close-ups of the pros. So that's a nice way to keep things organized. There's a reverse shot. Here's a close-up of one of the talent. So that's kind of how I'll build it out. And then the nice thing, I'm sure you guys know all this, but the nice thing with Premiere is I can grab this from here and move it down into my edit sequence down here, and it still stays up here and now it's in part of my edit. So that's kind of the way I like to work. That allows me to quickly pull up takes when a creative wants to see something and also know where everything is without going into my bins and pulling it up in the preview window. I really like using this kind of color-coded pancake sequence. I'll call it sequence of selects to kind of keep my footage organized. So then once I have that, I'll move it into a sequence where I'll work with a creative to put together, 4 or 5 different edits of how the spot's going to work, and different versions, different, here's different intro. Here's one where we open on a tighter, we have another one on a wide. And so we'll have kind of, I'll do all of those in one sequence rather than building a bunch of different sequences that I have to kind of shift through. Usually I will mark those, color code those up top as well, but I didn't here. Once the client kind of looks through it, then I'll move to my next sequence where they've kind of made a select. We know this is the structure, the lines they like, we have the ending, this is the VO. So if I make any changes, it's going to be to this. This is the main structure of how the spot's going to live. And I'll try to keep my tracks to a minimum here. And I'll keep my VO, my music, and my sound effects in different colors. So I know what's there. At that point, I can kind of move the select sequence out of the way. I'll keep it around, but quite often I'm just making very minute tweaks to this, trying to buy a frame here, because it's hard, it can be hard to fit things into 30 seconds. So a lot of it, when it gets to this point, is where can we get time and still make the edit work? So that's how that goes. This is kind of last year's version, although I don't think this has the promo in it, but this is what we shot with Phil, kind of talking about the new driver. And you can see all the branding we were forced to put in here. Up here, we've got the Dick's bag, we've got the Golf Galaxy towel, the Callaway Maverick. So it's a lot of stuff, but the spot turned out pretty well. Basically, the idea is Phil loves the club so much, he just has to talk to everyone at the country club about it. And so here he is doing that.
Look, I don't want to get into too much technical detail, but Maverick was made using artificial intelligence. It is completely optimized distance in such a way.
It's got these scale brake bars!
Aerodynamic head shape reduces drag, increases speed. Just get them at Dick's Sporting Goods and Golf Galaxy.
Powerful supercomputer has found a way.
So you know about the triaxial carbon crown, right? Anyways, it just hits bombs. Get the new Maverick family of distance at Dick's Sporting Goods and Golf Galaxy.
So that's basically the beginning of that promo, and he sets it up with a line. It's a well-written spot where he said, I don't want to get into too much technical detail, but then he goes and gets into tons of technical detail all over the place. So that one turned out pretty good. This is actually the chef in the middle there is the art director of Taco Truck. So you can see we cut costs where we can and get some extras in. This guy is an actor, but the chef, that's also an actor. Kitchen. Gotta go back to the kitchen. There you go. And there he is. That's Matt Phelan. He's a good friend of mine, a great art director, also a terrible golfer like me. But you can see again, I mean, we have to get branding in it everywhere. There's a Golf Galaxy bottle in the top right. So, and there's that one shot of him that's super awkward right in the middle where he says, just get him at Golf Galaxy and Dick's Sporting Goods. We actually had a way better line in there where he says, yeah, I think you could win a Nobel Prize. and we had to we had to replace it with get it at Dick's Sporting Goods and Golf Galaxy. So the thing with advertising, you have to make concessions from time to time. So that's kind of how that one worked. And I'll show you a cute animal one with some UGC to kind of finish it off here, and then answer any questions. But it's always good to end with a cute animal video, so I'll do that. So you can see in advertising a lot of times you have to have a perfect marriage of messaging with branding coming together with something that's going to be eye-catching and people will enjoy watching. I mean, because everyone wants to skip the commercials, so it's our job to try to get them to just hang in there for 30 seconds and watch this one commercial. So that's it. Thank you for watching.
Nice. I have to say, I'm totally ripping off.
You can see in advertising a lot of times it's I think somebody's
I'm totally ripping off because I work with a pancake timeline too. I do exactly what you do. I've kind of gotten away from using the source monitor and then doing that. I just throw everything on a timeline but I love the marker, using the markers to sort of, I kind of just leave gaps and then in my head just try to remember what everything is. But yeah, that's brilliant. So I'm totally ripping that off.
Thanks. I probably ripped it off from someone else. So that's like,
but I did want to ask though, like you had that one timeline where you said you had 3 or 4 different versions of the video. Is that something that you're, basically you're sort of tasked with, like, hey, don't give me just one version of this spot. Give me 3 or 4 different versions of this spot that are from you that you can then show your people who can then sort of say, okay, we like version 3. And then that's what you show the client, or can you kind of talk about how that works?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The process usually is like, okay, we have the shot, we have the idea, we have the script written, we've gone out and shot it. We're in post-production. We've got 3 weeks before we have to show it to the client. So client services will set up a schedule where week 1 on Friday, we'll show it to the internal creative team, so the creative directors. So I'll sit with the senior art director, or sometimes even a junior art director who knows nothing about video, and work on some different versions and how it could kind of work together. We'll cut probably 9 or 10 of those, and some things will work, some things won't. We'll kind of have an intuition on what we like. Sometimes we'll have disagreements. There have been yelling matches. But eventually we'll kind of come to like 4 or 5 versions that we feel pretty strongly about, and we'll present those in kind of a formal presentation to the internal team of creative directors, client services, because they have a checkbox of, we need to say this about the club and we need to show this branding. And so they're watching it for that. The creative directors are watching it for how it kind of plays together, making sure the edit feels right and things are working. They'll comment on the music, they'll comment on the art direction. And then we'll kind of take that feedback, go back into the edit room, bring a few new versions that we'll get ready to show the client. We'll show those to the creative directors again. They'll maybe give some minor feedback, but at that point, they're usually pretty comfortable to show it to the client. And we'll show the client 2 or 3 versions, and we'll have a Zoom meeting these days where we'll set it up to them. Hey, version 1 is usually always our preference. Version 1 we like the best. It opens on the wide shot. We feel like it really brings you into the spot. We love the way, John Rahm delivers this line in this version, but we know you wanted to say this about the putter. We know that this is the original script you've signed off on, was ending on the 2 amateur golfers kind of riffing and being funny. And we actually think it works better with the 2 pros. So we'll show a version that they kind of signed off on. That'll always be one of them. And then we'll show 1 or 2 that we think are better. And they'll almost always go with, our gut, or kind of like it gets mishmashed in between. This one that I'm working on right now, I just got feedback earlier today that Dick's and Golf Galaxy want us to put a bug of their logo over the entire spot in the corner. And I'm like, oh, that's now it feels like an infomercial. So, so we'll push back on them probably to not do that, and we'll see what happens. But with this spot, we'll probably have to do it because Callaway and Dick's have a partnership for it, so they kind of each paid half on it.
So just to follow up, so the difference between the spots really is, one is when you sit down to do it, one is going to be what you think is the best spot. One is going to be based on what you have. One is going to be what the client is expecting based on the script. And then the others just might be sort of randos that, you know, you get internal feedback from people like, hey, you should try this or you should try that. And you go, yeah, all right, we'll do that. Yeah. So it's really, one is sort of completely your vision or your take on what it should be.
Yeah, me and the immediate team that I'm working with, we'll have one that we just feel strongly about. And then anyone who's ever worked in advertising knows that creatives are not shy about sharing their opinion. And everybody thinks their taste level is the best. So everybody wants you to try something else. And sometimes, lots of times they're right. That's how they've gotten there. So we'll do another version that's kind of theirs. And most of the times I'll try to build things as modular as possible so that I can take this shot from this one and put it into that one and still kind of make it work. And that's usually how it ends up, as kind of a client, creative director, creative team mishmash. And yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So let's see. Kevin, go ahead. You have a question.
I had a question about UGC. How do you go about securing the rights and licensing, and how much do you end up getting soaked for it?
That's a good question. So UGC, we don't pay anything for it during the Rip-O-Matic session, obviously. But, you know, with that Petco stuff, which we worked on for years, we found the videos on YouTube. We got links. Our producer, who I think was either Mickey Strider or Amy Krause at the time, would go find the people on YouTube, ask them if they were even willing to open to the idea of selling their footage to be used in a Petco commercial. And then I think some of those shots we got for probably $500, and then others we paid, you know, maybe a little more, $2,500 or $3,000 if it was a shot that we knew we had to have. I think there's one in our Power of Together spot that is of an army guy coming home and seeing his dog for the first time after going on tour. And it was just a beautiful moment. It was our favorite. Yeah, there's tons of those, but this one specifically just had a really emotional moment. So I think we shelled out probably $3,000 for that one. But in the end, they weren't really that expensive. I mean, you'll find people on YouTube, they want to be famous. And so if they have an opportunity to put their whatever they shot into a TV commercial, they'll sell it to you. So, you know, you always kind of negotiate low, and then if they ask for more, you see if we can come up with the money.
One thing before we take any more questions, I have to say we got something tonight that I've never seen happen. Facebook has already notified me that there's an ownership claim by Toyo Tires for one of the videos. So yeah, so just passing that along. I usually get those like the next day or so, but man, Toyo Tires was on it. Like,
wow.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll see.
I would have thought one of the bigger brands would be on top of it. So I'm glad I didn't show that Callaway one that I signed the NDA for.
Yeah.
Hey, this is all fair use. Conversation.
Yeah, no, I've had good luck in fighting these things, but I've never gotten one that quick. It's usually a few days after posting it up to YouTube or Facebook that the claims all start coming in. I'm still getting ones that we had somebody from the Padres present, and he showed a basically, I guess it would be like a Rip-O-Matic, to use your terms, and they used Led Zeppelin. And nice. I'm still to this day having to argue that it's purely educational. We're not, you know, whatever, but there's constant claims about that Led Zeppelin song. But anyway,
next time I show something, I'm going to cut it to the Eagles, just because we'll get sued and we'll just have to deal with it.
Just Rolling Stones the whole next meeting.
Yeah.
With Disney music on it.
Any more questions for Dave before we wrap up? No, that's it. No, I see Marshall applauding there. So,
yeah, all right. I want to hear that applause, Marshall. You got to take yourself up from here. Thank you. Got it.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming out. Dave, that was amazing. Thank you so much for presenting, dude. That was just so great. And when everything lifts and we can go back to normal lives, definitely you, DJ, and myself need to meet up for beers and hang out and talk shop. So
absolutely. All you guys should come hang out. Marshall, we got to hang out again too sometime.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely,
I'll look forward to having in-person meetings again very
That'll
soon.
be great. Yes, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much again, Dave. And thank you, everybody, for coming out. This will be posted up on the YouTube channel probably tomorrow. Depends on how busy my schedule is, but I will work to have it up tomorrow. In case you missed it, apparently Facebook's going to edit out some parts. So yeah, look for the full unedited version on YouTube till they edit it out. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. And oh yeah,
One
go ahead,
last
Dave.
thing. Yeah, one last thing. I saw a question about editing in camera, and I'm not sure if anyone here uses Frame for posting and reviewing, but they just released something a couple weeks ago that I think is going to be really interesting and definitely used a lot in the future, and that's camera to cloud, where it's going to go right from the camera, proxies are made immediately, and you can do edits as they're on set. You can review footage on set while they're still shooting, and I think it's going to be a difference maker if the technology works okay. So check that out if you haven't.
That's always the big caveat. If it works as advertised.
If it works as advertised, it should be really cool, and definitely make it easier to kind of.
Yeah, I actually saw that them promoting that. I actually use Whipster, although I've had some issues with Whipster recently, so I might be moving to back to Frame. But yeah, I saw them talk about that, and it is intriguing, but I'm kind of like you. It's like, okay, there's a lot that seems like first of all, it seems like it's a kind of a big investment for, so smaller shops probably won't be able to take advantage of it, just bigger productions. But yeah, if it all works, it's, I don't want to say game changer because that's kind of overused, but that's a big deal. I mean,
yeah, check it out. If you have a Frame account, it's free. You just have to buy the equipment that fits on the camera.
Right.
Which I'm not sure how much that costs, but I don't think it's it's free with your Frame account. So
right.
Check out the video they released about it. It's definitely worth the watch.
Yep.
Dave, do you are you liking using Frame? Do you use it when you work with other editors or work with other people?
Yeah, I use Frame a lot and use it for collaboration. I haven't used the Adobe feature. What is it called? I can't remember. New production, I guess is what it's called. It's a production project where you can collaborate with other Adobe Premiere editors at the same time and share something on the cloud. But I usually use Frame. And so I find Frame to be very intuitive and insightful and a good way to share and get comments back. And I've liked using that a lot, definitely more than Vimeo. It's well worth the investment over Vimeo Pro account. Yeah, I used WireDrive for a while too, and I like Frame the best for sure.
Okay.
How often do you, now questions are just like coming up. No, we're all ready to wrap up. How often are you collaborating? Because I know you talked about Adobe Productions, which is made for sort of collaborative with multiple editors working on a project. Are you usually editing a project solo, or do you often work with another editor or a team of people?
Yeah, no, not too often do I work with another editor. Once or twice, they'll help me out and give me an assistant if I am just too overwhelmed with other projects. Taco Truck has a very, very good work-life balance kind of mantra. So they're not going to shove 80 hours of work on me in a 40-hour work week. So sometimes they'll give me an assistant and I can work remotely with them, mostly through Frame, but not very often. You'll see in that recent putter spot that we hired an animator. So I kind of had to work with him back and forth, sharing animations, or we'll work with animation companies up in LA. And I'll have to kind of use placeholders back and forth with them to kind of get footage to them and show them how the edit's working and what kind of time they have. But yeah, not as often as I would like to. I wish that we would have a big team and I could grow the production facility out and have tons of people, but it's not there yet. Maybe one day.
When you're on your productions, you commonly or typically have a DIT on set, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so are you the one that's closely collaborating with the DIT?
Yeah, quite often I'll sit at the DIT tent with the production company we use in LA is Fellow, and their DIT is actually an old friend of mine. So I'll hang out with him anyway and just sit on set with him. And I never make him, I'll tell him kind of my edit specs and to throw like a rough LUT on there. But I won't overdo it or make them do too much because, I want to leave it as open-ended as possible. So I'll make sure that he can kind of get the proxies ready for me, have a nice LUT ready to go, have all the footage nicely managed for me on the drive before they hand it off to me so that I don't have to do any of that stuff. So yeah, I do enjoy working with a good DIT for sure.
Is that Kyle?
It is Kyle Hoekstra. That's
Oh,
Kyle's a good dude. I think he's
a good dude.
nephew of the Lambesis family.
I didn't know that.
that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
All
Should have
right.
him on here sometime. Or not sure if any of you guys have ever worked with Noah Balcombe, but he's a good one too.
Yeah, I worked with Noah way back in like Barrio Logan days.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he would be good. Both of those guys would be good.
Good dudes for sure.
Yeah.
Did you live in Barrio Logan?
No, we worked down at San Diego. Well, I worked down at the San Diego Production Center, and I think you were down there a few times too with Steve and everybody. Yeah, which was down in Barrio Logan, and I'd always take the train, and I remember I would leave late at night because it was usually late nights, and there was a guy that would follow me every night and ask why Conan O'Brien was in his neighborhood. So I obviously had to put on some weight so that I wouldn't get mistaken for Conan O'Brien anymore, but. So not a problem now, but he's always like, Conan, why are you here, Conan? So
he's got a foot or two on you, I think.
He's got a foot or two on me. I've got a pound or two on him, so we're doing all right.
I was gonna say, because I mean Barrio Logan's just a hop, skip, and a jump from the East Village where I'm at, and yeah, that sounds par for the course down here. So
yeah,
I can go right outside that window, and it's interesting right now. So let's just leave it at that.
Tony Hawk's not always there, I suppose.
No, man. Yeah. So yeah, I talk about just like having one of those days where like you go and you do your paid shoot, and I'm definitely going to edit this out of the final video, but you go do your paid shoot and you're like, yeah, okay, I feel pretty good. I made $1 today. And then you like look out your window and there's a whole like production crew guy with an Airy, and he's shooting Tony Hawk on a skateboard going right outside your office window. And you're like, okay, what did I do wrong that I'm not on that shoot? It's like, I totally wanted to go down and like geek out and like, hey, Tony, what's up? Can I get a picture? But I don't want to be that dude. So I just kind of, watched from my window as he skated by 5 or 6 times. So
I feel that. I always want to ask Phil Mickelson if I can get a selfie with him, but I want to be a professional too, so I never do. Got to act like I've been there before,
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I think we will wrap it up. And the last thing I do want to say is my favorite line, and it's just I think that's so great. No disrespect, DJ, but Marvel called me. I know you're great. That's just like the greatest.
No, absolutely.
Don't judge me, DJ, but Marvel called me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Don't judge me, but George Lucas called me and was asking me to help him with some.
I wish.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming out, Dave. Thank you again, man. Definitely gonna do beers once we can, and we'll see everybody next month. All right,
Thanks so much, dude.
You guys.